The human delegation stood still at the foot of the marble steps, beneath the towering crystalline banners of the Zelorian Empire. Sunlight refracted through the palace's glass canopy, scattering rainbows across the polished floor. It was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. Lieutenant Evan Rains had seen alien grandeur before, on stations, embassies, and neutral hubs, but nothing compared to this. The Zelorians were an ancient, proud species, their bloodline stretching back 30 millennia. They were psychic, empathic, and moved with the grace of living sculptures. Humans were new to the Galactic Council, barely 50 years in. And this meeting, this ceremony, was meant to prove humanity's place among the stars. But Evan wasn't supposed to be here. He was a simple military linguist, trained in dozens of alien dialects, but recently reassigned as a communication observer after a disastrous negotiation between humans and a coalition of psychic races had ended with mutual misunderstanding. He'd been told repeatedly that he wasn't to speak. "Observe only," his commanding officer had said. "Don't sign, don't talk, don't even breathe weirdly unless someone tells you to." He'd laughed then, thinking it was a joke. But now, standing before the Queen of Zeloria, surrounded by her golden-armored guards and floating orbs of psychic translators, he didn't feel like laughing. The Queen's eyes, slitted crystalline blue, regarded the humans coldly. "You seek audience," she said through the telepathic translator. "You wish to enter the Protectorate Council. Yet your kind's minds are closed to us. You do not feel as we do. You do not speak as we do. What do you bring, humans of soul?" Ambassador Torres bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he began smoothly, "we bring cooperation, science, and protection. We bring willingness to learn your ways and contribute to your shared peace." The Queen tilted her head, unimpressed. Behind her throne, a smaller figure shifted, her daughter, Princess Arya. Barely 16 by human standards, the princess was beautiful even by Zelorian standards. Pale gold skin, soft silver eyes. But she did not lift her gaze to the humans. She stared at the floor, her fingers twitching slightly. Evan noticed the guards watching her with quiet pity. When the Queen turned her head, the princess did not respond immediately. One of the aides leaned close, whispered something into her ear, and only then did she nod obediently. Evan blinked. The realization came like lightning. The princess couldn't hear her mother. The moment of silence. The meeting dragged on, filled with stiff formalities, glowing symbols, and telepathic waves that washed over Evan's mind like static. He couldn't understand most of it. Humans didn't possess the Zelorians' mental channels, so everything was translated clumsily by machines. Still, his attention kept drifting toward the princess. She was restless, fidgeting, gazing around with silent curiosity. The other nobles ignored her. Once or twice, the Queen sent her a sharp glare when she didn't react in time to a telepathic signal. Each time Arya bowed her head ashamed. Evan knew that look. He'd seen it on the faces of deaf children back home, lost in worlds built for others. His throat tightened. He couldn't help it. As the Council's conversation turned to trade routes and defense treaties, Evan's gaze caught hers, just for a moment. Arya's eyes widened, curious, cautious. Then she looked away. But he saw the subtle tremor of her fingers again, rhythmic, patterned. She's trying to communicate. To any Zelorian, it probably looked like nervous fidgeting. But to Evan, who had worked with deaf colonists in the Outer Belt, it looked hauntingly familiar. Her gestures weren't human, but the rhythm, the concept, was the same. Visual language. Something in him snapped. He shouldn't. He really shouldn't. He'd been ordered to stay quiet, to never disrupt a royal audience. But the thought of her, isolated even in a room full of telepaths, was unbearable. When the Queen turned her attention away, Evan raised his hands slowly. He made a small sign, universal, simple. Hello. Arya froze. Her eyes locked onto his hands, confusion flashing first, then shock. Slowly she made a gesture back. Not identical but close. Evan smiled faintly and tried again, his fingers moving carefully. He didn't use Earth sign exactly, just shapes, motions, concepts, mixing in Zelorian gestures he'd studied. Her hands twitched again. He understood. Barely, but enough. You can see me. Sign. He nodded, replying yes. Can see you. The princess's breath hitched. Her eyes filled with emotion, so raw, so sudden, that even from across the throne room Evan felt it. But their moment didn't last. One of the aides saw the motion, gasped, and pointed sharply. The human moves without leave. Instantly, the Queen's psychic presence flared, sharp and freezing. The air seemed to solidify. Evan's muscles locked as invisible pressure crushed his chest. What is the meaning of this? The Queen's voice boomed inside his mind. You were commanded to observe, not to perform barbaric gestures in my presence. The guards aimed their spears. The air shimmered with psychic energy. Torres stammered. Your Majesty, forgive him. He's inexperienced, he didn't mean. But Arya suddenly stood. Mother! She cried aloud, her voice cracking, raw from disuse. The entire court went silent. Even the translators faltered. The Queen turned, astonished. Arya! Arya stepped forward, trembling, pointing at Evan. He spoke to me. I saw him. He used hands. I understood. The Queen blinked, confusion giving way to disbelief. You what? Evan struggled to breathe as the psychic grip loosened. He met the Queen's gaze. Your Majesty, she's deaf, isn't she? Gasps rippled through the court. No one dared say it aloud, but it was true. The royal line was said to be perfect, their minds flawless. Admitting the princess's condition would be scandalous. The Queen's eyes hardened. You presume much, human. I'm sorry, Evan said softly. I didn't mean disrespect. But I recognized the signs. She can't hear your telepathy, can she? The Queen said nothing. The silence was answer enough. Evan continued, voice steady now. On Earth we had children like her. We built languages for them. Languages of motion, of sight. We didn't hide them away. The Queen's composure cracked. You dare imply. Your Majesty, please, Evan said, bowing low. I didn't come to expose her. I came to understand. He turned to Arya, lifted his hands again and signed slowly. You are not broken. Her lips trembled. Tears welled in her eyes. The turning point. The Queen stared, utterly still. For the first time in recorded history, a non-psychic had made a Zelorian royal cry. The court dissolved into hushed murmurs. Some nobles looked scandalized, others curious. The Queen raised a trembling hand. Show me, she whispered. Evan hesitated. Your Majesty. Show me this language of motion. He nodded slowly. Of course. He started simple. Gestures of greeting, emotion, question, answer. Each motion deliberate, expressive, visual. He signed peace, then understanding, then family. Then, turning to the princess, he signed mother. Arya's breath hitched. She turned to her mother and, hesitant but radiant, copied the sign. The Queen froze. And then, as the meaning sank in, the regal mask fell away. The Queen's eyes glistened. She dropped her crown, stepped forward, and pulled her daughter into her arms. "My child," she whispered aloud, voice shaking. "All these years, I thought you were lost to me." Arya clung to her, sobbing quietly. "I can see your words now, Mother. He showed me how." Evan stood still, heart pounding, unsure if he should look away. Aftermath. The human who changed everything. Hours later, the throne room was empty except for the Queen, Arya, and the human delegation. The Queen looked years older, but lighter somehow, freer. She turned to Evan. "Lieutenant Rains," she said quietly, "your defiance could have cost your life. And yet, you gave me back my daughter." Evan bowed. "I didn't do anything miraculous, ma'am. I just saw someone who needed to be heard." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps that is your species' miracle." Arya stepped forward shyly. "May I learn more of your signs?" Evan smiled. "Of course, Princess. I'll teach you everything I know." The Queen inclined her head. "And in return, humanity shall have what it sought. Full entry into the Protectorate Council." Ambassador Torres nearly choked. "You mean?" The Queen raised a hand. "I do not grant this lightly. But I have seen what your kind brings. Not power, not wealth, but connection. Your species bridges what others cannot." She turned to Evan again. "When I told you to stay silent, you refused. And in doing so, you taught us what true communication means." Her voice softened. "You have my gratitude, human of soul." Evan bowed low. "It was an honor, Your Majesty." Ending the legacy. Weeks later, as the human ship Resolute prepared to depart Zeloria, Evan stood at the viewport, watching the blue-gold planet fade. A new message blinked on his terminal. Encrypted, royal seal attached. He opened it. It was a short video. Princess Arya smiling shyly, her hands moving gracefully in front of her. "Thank you, teacher," she signed. "I am learning. My mother learns too. The court watches. Soon, all Zelorians will see with their hands as well as their minds." Evan's throat tightened. He typed a reply, recorded himself signing back. "Keep teaching, Princess. Keep being heard." He sent it and leaned back, smiling faintly. Ambassador Torres walked by, clapping his shoulder. "You realize you just changed interspecies communication forever, right?" Evan chuckled. "I just broke orders. The rest kind of happened." Torres laughed. "You humans always do that." Evan turned to the viewport one last time. "Yeah," he said softly. "Guess that's what we do best. Finding ways to speak when no one's listening." The ship jumped to FTL, a streak of light vanishing into the dark sea of stars. Epilogue. Years later. A decade later, on the capital world of the Galactic Council, a statue stood in the central plaza. A human and a Zelorian child facing each other, their hands mid-sign between peace and understanding. Below, a plaque read. He was told to stay quiet, but instead he taught the galaxy to speak. And every new ambassador, human or alien, learned a simple sign before their first meeting. Hello. A reminder that words were never the only way to connect.